3 hours as we always do. So a lot to dissect and sort of unpack from another just crazy weekend in the NFL. Going all the way back to the Thanksgiving Day games on Thursday, which we will take some time to go through as we walk through this night. Obviously, we'll do our usual live betting bonanza on this Monday Night Football game, which just got interesting after halftime thanks to a lengthy kickoff return to start the half for the Indianapolis Colts, who looked lifeless at the end of the first half, down 16-3. It's now 16-10. And you get the Colts, who are trying to respond again here, starting out deep in their own territory. So we'll keep tabs on the Monday Night Football game, which, I mean, look, let's be honest. Is it meaningful in the context of who's going to win the Super Bowl this season? No. But it is meaningful in terms of, where this Indianapolis Colts organization plans to go after this season, whether it's continuing to go with Jeff Saturday, whether it's, making a move and going and getting somebody on the open market. And it also means a lot for Steeler fans in terms of trying to find out whether or not Kenny Pickett is the guy to lead this organization. Coming up in this hour, we'll talk about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, who just cannot seem to hold a fourth quarter lead. We'll also talk with Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. He'll join us coming up in about 32 minutes to go around the NBA. We're just getting started. Stay with us. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. My God. If you knew the fire drill we were going through literally 3 minutes before we came on the air. Nothing was working. I was having issues with my equipment. It was just a disaster. Whew. Oh, my God. Brutal. Yeah. You off? Are you what are you working this week with me? Is today the only day? Okay. Do you know who's working with me tomorrow? Yeah, I don't think it's John. My understanding is he's got some family issues going on. Thursday and Friday, it's Brian. I'm not sure about Tuesday, Wednesday this week. Well, maybe. I mean, it'd be great if it is, but I don't know. Hey, it's me. All right, get out of there. Thank you. Continuing on this Thanksgiving Eve, We continue on this Monday edition of the show. Good to have you with us. The Monday Night Football game, we'll check in on that from a live betting perspective coming up about 13 minutes from now, with the Colts and the Steelers. 16-10 Pittsburgh leading in Indianapolis. 7:42 to go third quarter. Indianapolis with the ball 1st and 10 on the Pittsburgh 33. So things getting interesting. I mean, the Colts looked lifeless through the first 2 quarters of this game, and who knows, Jeff Saturday maybe lighting a fire under him at the half. Everybody was starting to write the Jeff Saturday obituary already, probably at halftime. Team was getting booed going off the field. And instead, you've got Indianapolis trying to make a run in this game and, keep their look. As much as we talk about what it's going to take to make the playoffs or any of this stuff, and who knows, these things are so fluid week to week. Indianapolis is 4-6-1, and they're not winning any Super Bowls this year. But if they somehow could still manage to find a way into the postseason, you never know. Indianapolis 4-6-1. Tennessee is 7-4 right now. I don't see anybody catching the Titans. And again, we've talked about this before. You look at the wild card; it's probably coming out of the AFC East and the AFC North. The Chargers are still there as well. It's 6-5, but you've got basically a 3-horse. You basically had a 4-horse race for 3 wild card spots right now in the AFC. And one of those wild cards might wind up being the Baltimore Ravens. It might wind up being the Cincinnati Bengals, because in the AFC North, you've got 2 teams tied atop the division. And what you have is one team in Cincinnati, which feels like it's, you've got intersecting lines, so to speak. Or, intersecting lines, but in the sense that one team is on an upward trend and the other is sort of kind of on a wobbly trend. The Bengals offense is starting to produce. They've won 3 games in a row. They're about to get Jamar Chase back. They won 3 games in a row without arguably their best receiver and one of the best receivers in the game in Jamar Chase. And then you watch the Baltimore Ravens, and it's been fascinating to watch the evolution of the Lamar Jackson story as we go through the year. Playing, obviously, to try and get that next big contract. And you see the pressures that come with it. I mean, you're talking about a guy that bet on himself, doesn't have an agent, is trying to handle this whole thing on his shoulders. So he doesn't just have, the hopes and dreams of Baltimore Ravens fans on his shoulders. He's got the hopes of everything in his life on his own shoulders. Look, somebody's going to pay him. If there's one thing we know in this league by now, thank you, Deshaun Watson, for proving it, it's that somebody is going to pay you. The question is it ultimately going to be the Baltimore Ravens? And as much as people want to get on the Ravens defensively for 4 fourth quarter blown leads now, after the loss yesterday in Jacksonville against a Jaguars team that's now just 4-7 on the year. It's one of the stranger 4-7s you'll ever see. They're 4-7 with a +12 scoring differential, meaning they've scored 12 more points than their opponents. I mean, that's how many close games they've lost, you could say. It's just bizarre. It's again one of those weird years in the NFL. But forget the Jacksonville side of this for a second. Focus on the Ravens, who blow another fourth quarter lead and find themselves tied atop the AFC North with a surging Cincinnati Bengals team. And yesterday, a lot of fingers were getting pointed in that fourth quarter, particularly at Lamar Jackson and the way he played in this game. And the questions continue as to whether or not this is a guy that's worthy of the kind of contract he's holding out for. Something completely guaranteed in that really ridiculous, insane stratosphere. And again, he'll point to Kyler Murray, and he'll point to Deshaun Watson, And he'll point to Dak Prescott as guys that haven't really won all that much but have still gotten paid their money. And I'll point to the fact that the Ravens are an organization that have to operate in what is their best interests, and what they think is their best interest may not be Lamar Jackson. Right now, he's getting paid what he gets paid. He's getting an opportunity to prove whether or not he is worthy of that franchise-shaking sort of money. Money that makes it more difficult to go in and bring in other guys. Money that says you're going to win us a Super Bowl. For a guy that has one postseason win. One in 3 attempts. And a guy yesterday that went 16 of 32 for 254 yards and a touchdown. A guy that could not find the end zone in the first half of this game and instead had to rely on a Justin Tucker chip shot field goal a few times. And I've said it before. I do not think you win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. I have been steady and firm on the idea that you do not win Super Bowls with quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, where the accuracy could sometimes be an issue, where it's great during the regular season. He's a great regular season quarterback, despite the fact that this team is 7-4 and blown 4 fourth quarter leads this year. And as much as you might want to point to the Ravens defense on this, you know what? Sometimes quarterbacks and offenses, they have to pick up their defenses when they let them down. And you could also make the argument there's been a couple of times in that 4 losses this year where Lamar Jackson has failed to do that. But what was most interesting to me, and again, it goes to show you the pressure this kid is under to try, and I say kid not in a condescending way. I say it because he's 20 years younger than me, and he's old enough to be my son. This guy is going through something that few people can ever imagine going through. And I get it. It's a first world problem, and there's people who have to deal with way more difficult and horrible things in their lives. I get it. But you're talking about a guy who's trying to lead a team to a Super Bowl and is playing for insane amounts of money, who doesn't have an agent. And what did you see after the game yesterday? Oh, it's that thing that nobody wants to talk about. I heard a host on satellite radio today who just said, oh, he lashed out in a negative way. And that was where he left it. And some people have wanted to touch it and some people don't. Well, I'll touch it because it touches me in a negative way. When you get a guy like Lamar Jackson going off on a fan who absolutely baited him. And I got news for you. I don't want the leader of my team. I don't want the quarterback who's supposed to be the figurehead of my organization. I don't want that guy being so easily baited by a fan that wanted to take him on for having a game where he had a 50% completion percentage and was just sort of meh. I don't want that guy to be the figurehead of my organization. And that's what Lamar Jackson is expecting of the Baltimore Ravens. And they will do their best to sweep this under the rug, as John Harbaugh tried to do earlier today, and say, well, I talked to him, and that's not the Lamar Jackson I know. And for people who did not see the tweet in question, because it was deleted 3.5 hours after it was put out there, Lamar Jackson responding to a fan who basically intimated you shouldn't get the money you're asking for. Lamar Jackson said, boy, STFU, shut the bleep up. Y'all be capping too much on this app. MF, mother, you could figure it out. MF never smelt a football field, never did bleep, but eat. Rhymes with sick, starts with a D. That's how Lamar Jackson responded in the minutes, and I mean literally minutes, after losing a football game on Sunday. Now, say what you want about Kyler Murray. Say what you want about Dak Prescott. Say what you want about any of the top paid quarterbacks in the league, is that how they're responding? And as an organization, is that what the Ravens want as a representation for who they are? And I will once again harken back to one of the oldest sayings in the book. Maya Angelou says it all the time. If somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And right now, Lamar Jackson showed you who he was. In a tough time, in a stressful point in the season, trying to tell you who he is by lashing out at a fan this way. And people are going to say, is the tweet homophobic? Is it anti-gay? All that stuff. Here's what I know. It's not mature. I'm not even going to go there in terms, and I'm a gay man. Proud. But I'm not even going to go whether or not it's mature, whether it's not it's a homophobic slur or a homophobic tweet or any of that stuff. We could get into that a whole nother time. Here's what I know about it. It's not mature. And this isn't a guy that's been in the league for 5 minutes. This is a guy that's been around enough and knows better. So when you tell me, John Harbaugh, that this isn't who he is, and I know who Lamar Jackson is, you know what? That tweet told me who he was. And again, it's not even about whether he's homophobic or any of that stuff. It told me he's immature. And Jamison Hemsley went after him with ESPN. He wrote a piece saying it was anti-gay and all that. And then Lamar Jackson said, "Oh, you're defaming me. It's not fair." No, Lamar Jackson, you defamed yourself with what you wrote after the game. And you showed yourself to be immature. I'm not giving the keys to my Maserati, if I had one. I'm not giving the keys to my Maserati to the guy who shows bad judgment and runs red lights and is constantly revving the engine at the light. I'm not giving that guy the keys to my Maserati. Sorry, I'm just not. The guy has not shown he can make the plays in the postseason. The guy shows that he cracks after the game when people go after him. And again, this wasn't even like, I mean, I've seen worse things written. God knows I've had worse things written about me. And not gone after people the way that Lamar Jackson went after this fan. So here we are. What do the Ravens do? How do they handle it? Well, they're just going to obviously go about their business this year. But if I'm ownership, I've got to store this one away. I've got to be writing this down. And if I'm the sports media, which loves to find a cause celeb, don't ignore what he said. Don't pretend that it's just some innocuous comment. Because if it wasn't such a terrible thing that he wrote, why'd he delete it? We're back to talk live betting on Monday Night Football next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio.
Hands off to Jacob, stutters to the right, bursts through the whole 20, 25, 30, he's off to the races, here in Seattle, nobody's gonna catch him, 25, 20, 10, ball game, bye-bye Josh, 86 yards in overtime to walk it off for a second straight week. Touchdown Raiders, victory Las Vegas.
So cool.
It's just an ISO lead. It's a beautiful run. You called it right up the middle. Oh my goodness, let's go home.
Great call from the guys on the Raiders radio network, including Jason Horowitz, who's their play-by-play guy. That was awesome. You know, it's certainly one of the highlights of this NFL weekend. The remarkable victory for the Raiders, walking it off for the second straight week, this time in Seattle against a Seahawks team that, well, I mean, look, it's not your typical Seahawks team in terms of what they could do defensively. They're obviously able to score a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points. And I keep saying it all the time. The difference maker for me in the NFL isn't whether or not you can score. The difference maker for me in the NFL, and it's not as glamorous and it's not as glitzy and it's not, throwing bombs 50 yards. It's none of that. It's, can you get stops? Can you get stops? And that's why I keep leaning on San Francisco. Oh, by the way, they shut out the hapless offense of the Saints this weekend. It's why I lean on Dallas, who shut down the Giants in the second half on Thanksgiving in front of 42 million people. We'll talk about that later. That's why I am so heavy. It's why I'm buying in so much on teams like San Francisco, which can do just enough to score, Dallas, that could do just enough to score. In the case of Dallas, they may even get better if they wind up getting Odell Beckham Jr. It's why I look at those teams as legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And not just teams that are going to make the playoffs, but could do something special. Because they can get stops when they need them. Doesn't show up the same way in the box score. I get it. Doesn't mean as much for your fantasy football team. I get it. But it's going to be the defining factor, I think, when we get into the postseason, is teams like Dallas and San Francisco. And they can't both go to the Super Bowl, but I think one of them will. I do. I watched Philadelphia get lit up by a Green Bay Packers team yesterday. I'm sorry. Do not drink the Kool-Aid on the Philadelphia Eagles, folks. Do not drink the Kool-Aid on the Eagles. Because if you do, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I think they're good. And look, I've said it before. Any team that makes the playoffs in the NFC could theoretically wind up in the Super Bowl because there is no prohibitive favorite. There is nobody that's inevitable. I have said this time and time again to you. But at the same time, right now, I'm looking at teams that can play defense and do enough offensively rather than teams that can score a lot of points and give up a lot of points. Because those teams are just crapshoots. You're just rolling the dice and hoping for, all right, maybe I'll roll the 5. Just hope I don't roll the 7. And any given week, you just don't know. And Philadelphia's played a lot of close games this year. They're not blowing teams out. And I'm sorry, the schedule just isn't mind-blowingly difficult for them so far either. Not buying in. Not buying in on Philadelphia. If you do so at your own peril. You go making bets on them to win the NFC Championship or make the Super Bowl. You do it at your own peril. I think they're good. I do not think they're as good as Dallas fully healthy. I do not think they're as good as San Francisco. I will continue to ride that train with those two teams. Oh, the phone number. I haven't given it out yet. 1-800-22. I'm too busy talking. 1-800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. If you disagree with anything I say, you can weigh in. If you agree with me, you can weigh in. 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show. Please do, at the back page. God, I got so wrapped up in everything I wanted to talk about. This is what happens when you have 4 days off. I'm off my game a little. I'm off my talk show hosting game. Giving out the phone number, make sure to put out the Twitter information, all that stuff. Oh, by the way, Indianapolis now leads the Steelers 17-16 at the end of 3. Amazing. This is why you don't write obituaries on teams at halftime. It's why sometimes as fans, you boo the team as they go off the field at halftime, and then they come out and they show you, oh, yeah, we can still play. Kenny Pickett's shown some nice signs in this game for Pittsburgh. But Matt Ryan just trying to stay in the sunshine for one more day. Is figuring out a way to get this Colts team down the field. Down 16-3 at the half. They now lead 17-16. They converted a huge 4th down over around the 40 of Pittsburgh on that last touchdown drive. The live betting on this game looks like this. It's Indianapolis minus 170. It is Indianapolis minus 1.5. And it's 42.5 on the total. 17-16 Indianapolis leading Pittsburgh at the start of the 4th quarter in Indianapolis. If I was going to do a bet here, watching the way this game is trended in the second half, I would take Indianapolis on the money line, minus 178. Let's lock it in, minus 178. Minus 178 on Indianapolis. You're going to have to give up some juice if you want to bet it on the money line. The total, 1.5, it's there right now, so you're losing if you make that bet, and you're an Indianapolis fan. Who knows? There may not be any more points scored in this game. Indianapolis is going to try to grind it out when they have the ball. Pittsburgh might have 2 more possessions in this game. So Indianapolis minus 178 on the money line on the live betting is our live bet for tonight. Maybe we'll get something in on the NBA later. We're back with Kurt Heelan, pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. We'll get into some NBA with him next on The Cash-In. Stay tuned. Continuing with this Monday edition of the show. Hey, this is your reminder as we continue with this Monday edition of the show. This is your reminder to head over to playfortickets.com right now. That's playfortickets.com. Play the Super Pick 7 contest. It's going on with your chance to go to the NFL's biggest game in February in Glendale, Arizona. You know the one. It's the Super Pick 7 contest. It's free to play. It's free to sign up. It's free to try and win at playfortickets.com. Every Sunday of the NFL season, including the playoffs, gives you a chance to win, and it couldn't be easier. All you got to do is pick the correct side and totals on Sunday for 7 games. It's that simple. Use that football expertise each week, and you have a chance to win 2 tickets to the big game in Glendale, Arizona in February, and put $50,000 cash in your pocket. Just go to playfortickets.com, click the Super Pick 7 contest. You win $50,000 cash, 2 tickets to the big game, airfare, and hotel if you can pick the correct side and totals on Sunday for 7 games. 21 and over to play. Terms and conditions apply. Playfortickets.com. Go and check it out. I can see Kurt Heelan typing furiously into his computer right now to go make the picks for this weekend. Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is our guest in our 2-for-1 tonight. Kurt, how was your Thanksgiving, my friend?
It was good. It was good. Got to hang out with family, go up to my brothers. And by the way, if you want to win that contest, I'll just give you my picks, then do the opposite, and I think you stand like a decent chance.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, 7. It can be done though. I mean, it can absolutely be done. I know the owners of the company, and the insurance policy ain't cheap, which means it can be done. You just got to pick 7 games, correct side and total, and I mean, get a chance to go to the biggest game in the NFL. I mean, I'd certainly go and do it. All right, what were you going to say?
You should give it a shot, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I just spent the weekend in San Francisco. I spent 4 days up there. I left on Thursday. I went up there for 4 days. By the way, the demise of the city of San Francisco has been greatly exaggerated. Let me just say that. After spending 4 days there, people who are like, "Oh my God, it's like The Walking Dead. It's terrible. It's a disaster." You're nuts. The city is still amazing. Thank you to the city of San Francisco for giving us such a fun weekend on Thanksgiving weekend. But the Warriors, more importantly, you're starting to get the sense that they're figuring it out, aren't you?
Absolutely. I was just wrote about that this morning, that they've won 8 of 11 now. And look, for a while, Steph Curry was just having to carry them, and he's still playing at an MVP, level of basketball. But Klay Thompson has found his legs, and the other thing they finally did was just move away from the two timelines thing, where they really banked on the youngsters coming in, and it didn't work. Moses Moody's now out of the rotation. James Wiseman is in the G League, and Kuminga's still getting minutes, but they've gone away from that. They've leaned into their splitting time. They didn't really used to. Steve Kerr doesn't really like to split Draymond Green and Steph Curry so much because they play so amazingly well off of each other. But he's kind of, excuse me, he's had to this year just because of their depth issues, and it's worked. Like he's just splitting their minutes, and suddenly the bench units aren't. Look, they had a fantastic starting five, and everything would come apart with the bench. Started putting Draymond out with the bench and shifting things around, and they got DiVincenzo healthy, which helps. But the bench isn't a disaster anymore, and suddenly they're winning games, and they're starting to look like the Warriors again. And they're not all the way back. The defense isn't all the way there. Jordan Poole hasn't been consistent yet. But you can see, like you said, you can watch them now, and you're like, yeah, I can see. I can see where this goes. And they've got to feel good, by the way, in a West where nobody's run away with it. Like, it's not like the East where you look up at the top and you're like, damn, Milwaukee and Boston are good, and that's the bar. It's not going to be easy to get there. Like, no, Phoenix is on top, and they're very good, but nobody's run away with the West and made you like, oh, man, I don't know if we can get to those guys. Like, it's just not that way. So I think there's a lot of hope.
Talk to me about the Celtics, because at 17-4, I've got to take a little heat, because at the beginning of the year when we were looking at the teams and going around, I said I didn't understand the Celtics being the favorite in Vegas to win the NBA championship, with teams like Milwaukee, obviously the Warriors having done what they did. To me, I didn't think Boston had earned the preseason favorite in Vegas status or moniker that had been placed upon them. But you mentioned them there just a few minutes ago, in discussing the fact that the East has sort of had those two teams that have separated themselves at least through the first quarter of the NBA season. To you, when you analyze Boston from top to bottom, why is it that they've been so good?
Their offense has been absolutely phenomenal. They've just, I don't think that they've been kind of going back and forth with Sacramento for best offense in the league, and I'm not sure who has it, as we speak right this second. But their offense has been phenomenal. They kept what worked from last year and built upon it, and that's a credit to Joe Mazzulla. Look, it's a little bit of like when Luke Walton coached the Warriors that 63-win season. They're dominating. The system had been put in place. Don't mess with it, right? Like, just make it, just run a little more, maybe fine tune it, but don't mess with what works. They came back with a chip on their shoulder. I didn't know how they were going to handle that entire situation with Ime Udoka and losing a popular coach and how they would respond. They've responded beautifully. They really haven't missed a stride. And you got to remember, they're 17-4. Their best defender hasn't played yet, and they're not going to get him back till probably certainly after the first of the year, and somewhere maybe closer to the All-Star break. They get Robert Williams back, and if he can come back and be Robert Williams and be an elite defender, suddenly this team is back to being, again, right in the mix for a title. They are scoring. They're efficient. They've got two elite wings. They've got versatility. They can just beat you a lot of different ways, and I think that's what shows up every night. It doesn't have to be Tatum every night. Make
the argument for Milwaukee, then.
Have you met Giannis Antetokounmpo? Look, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the obvious advantage there, but they've got great role players around him. And again, remember, they've done this without Chris Middleton. Their best half-court shot creator, with all due respect to Giannis, like, that's the guy they lean to create at the end of games. They've got Drew Holiday, but they know who they are. They know what they are. They defend well. They have added versatility to their game that they didn't have a couple years ago before they won the title. I think they are right there as well. And just, it starts and ends with they have the best player on the planet playing for them. They are capable of winning every game, but their length, their defense. Again, they haven't had Pat Connaughton either. So, like, when they get that full roster back to go around Drew Holiday and everything else, their depth, their consistency is just going to make them a force of nature. And they in Boston will, when that series happens, and I'm kind of rooting for it, that's just going to be epic. That is going to be 7 games of just knockdown drag out.
Are the Mavericks just spitting in the wind here, trying to get anything they can in terms of supporting Luka Doncic? I know they go and get, Kemba Walker to kind of help out the backcourt. You look at teams that the loss of Jalen Brunson has you could see what he meant to that team.
Yeah. Yeah, and they can kind of survive it during the regular season, right? Because you don't need that second shot creator as much. Look, Luka Doncic is, again, another guy playing. If you're having an MVP conversation right now, he is in the top 3 or 4, however you're defining it, and maybe at the very top of that list. He's been phenomenal, but against the best teams, you start to see it. You start to see hey, we can make Luka's life difficult, and who's going to pick it up? And Spencer Dinwiddie has tried. I think that's what Kemba Walker comes in for. They brought in Facu Campazzo out of Argentina, but he's just not that guy.
I like Christian Wood, though.
I like Christian Wood. They haven't really leaned in. His defense hasn't been good, so you get this sense that
whose defense is good? Nobody's defense is good. It's the NBA.
Yeah, I think they need to lean into him more during the regular season. But he might be, if his defense is going to be this bad, it might be difficult to play him in the postseason, but let's get to the postseason and deal with that. I don't know how much, I don't know how much Kemba can help unless you've got some sort of DeLorean with a flux capacitor in it and it can go get Kemba Walker's knees from about 10 years ago, then it's a different story. But still, they've got to find something. You're right. You watch them and they miss Brunson. And Doncic can make up for it for a while, but at some point, that's going to catch up with him, both in terms of in the playoffs, where, I'm talking about, oh my gosh, they'll get to him in the playoffs. At some point, he's going to wear down. You're just asking this guy to carry so much offense, so much load, so much scoring every night that it's not fair. Guys are going to wear down.
If I give you 3 names, I was reading an interesting article today that made me think of this. I'm going to give you 3 names: Carmelo Anthony, DeMarcus Cousins, Isaiah Thomas. Which is the most likely to get a phone call from a team and get on a roster right now? Is it DeMarcus Cousins?
That's a really good question. I think here's the thing. I think it should be Cousins because I think he proved it last year in Denver and I think it was Milwaukee for a stretch. But in Denver, I thought he played pretty well. It's just the concern that he's a disruption. And that, fair or not, whether he still is or not, that perception has kept him out. I got a feeling it might be Carmelo. Just somebody's at some point going to go, hey, let's go get a forward who can score buckets. And Carmelo can still get you buckets off the bench, and he's kind of accepted that role. I got a feeling, I don't think it's Isaiah. Isaiah's problems, as he looked, after all the injuries, he just kind of lost half a step, and he's undersized, and it's just an issue, defensively. So, fair or not, because I think he could help some teams too, but I got a feeling it's Carmelo, but I think it should be DeMarcus. Like, I know there's been rumors about him in Taiwan. Some teams, DeMarcus could help teams right now. He really could. And I think there's just this concern that he'd be more trouble than it's worth. And I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I don't, if you're thinking about signing him, you've got to have a conversation with the people in Denver and see if that was the case last year. I didn't get the impression that was. I didn't hear that, but you've got to go find out.
Is there any scenario, I only got 60 seconds here for you to answer this one, but is there any scenario where Tom Thibodeau winds up losing his job this season with the Knicks, or is he going to make it through the year?
Probably makes it through the year, but no, there's absolutely a scenario if they start to come apart. This has been a disappointing season for them. The problem is, just in a nutshell, if you're Leon Rose, that's your card to play. That was your guy. You brought him in. If you let him go, the spotlight turns to you. It doesn't matter who you bring in as a coach. The spotlight's on you. Rose wants to avoid that for as long as possible.
Great job, as always, from Kurt Heelan. Does a terrific work. You can check him out over at NBCSports.com. It's pro basketball talk. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
We'll look forward to it. Take care, man.
My man, Kurt Heelan, joining us on the show. How about the Steelers? Wow. Do I got to tell you about what's going on in Indianapolis? We'll update you on the Colts and Steelers. Monday Night Football. We got a good one. We'll tell you about it next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I got that for the replay. Getting set to put the wraps on our number one. We didn't talk about it in our conversation with Kurt Heelan, but Karl Anthony Towns had T-Wolves fans holding their breath. He's going to undergo an MRI in his right calf Tuesday, but Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN is reporting there's optimism he might have avoided a substantial injury to his lower leg. Non-contact injury turning to run down the floor Monday night in Washington. Reached back to grab at his calf, and some people thought it might have been an Achilles injury. Right now, they're hopeful that that is not the case, and we certainly hope for the best, too, with Karl Anthony Towns, because he is so important to that franchise. for anything they're going to do this season. Not that anybody was looking at Minnesota as a title contender or anything like that, but he is a huge piece to what they're doing in Minnesota with the T-Wolves now and certainly in the days ahead. So Monday Night Football, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Steelers lead the Colts 24-17, 5:14 to go in the fourth. After not doing anything in the second half, Steelers marched down the field after Indianapolis took a 17-16 lead, score a touchdown, big third down throw on that drive from Kenny Pickett, who has acquitted himself nicely in this game. Looks like Pittsburgh's going to have to punt it away here, though, with 4:53 to go in the fourth quarter. Indianapolis is going to get the football back, trailing 24-17. And basically their season may rest on what they do on this upcoming drive. Top of the hour is here. We'll tell you what's going on in that game after the top of the hour. Lots more to talk about on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Stay with us. I don't know why I got this frog in my throat.
Pass interference. Defense number 29. Doesn't hit the line. Result of the play. First down.
Against Levi Wallace. And that 28-yard completion ties for the longest play from scrimmage tonight for the Colts. Yeah, they haven't really attempted any of these, and that has been the Achilles heel of this defense for the Steelers. They've given up a lot of big plays, have misplayed balls. This one, they
listening on 97.1 The Freak in Dallas. Glad to have you with us tonight and each and every night on the show when the Dallas Mavericks aren't playing, of course. So it'll be 4th and 3 for Indianapolis. Game on the line. I mean, they could still theoretically get the football back if they don't score, if they don't get this first down. I'm sure they've got some timeouts left to burn. But a big 4th down coming up. They're going to burn one of those timeouts. And we'll see if Matt Ryan can keep the drive alive at the Pittsburgh 37-yard line. Been a pretty interesting Monday Night Football game. Looked like a snooze fest at the half with its 16-3 Steelers. And now here we are. Indianapolis driving to try and tie the game. We'll keep an eye on the live betting there. Tell you what's going on around the NBA. Lots more to do. Hour number 2 of the cash-in. Good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio. Hey, how about them Omaha Steaks? Good stuff. Oy vey. Continuing on this Monday edition of the show. Whew, a wild finish to this Colts Steelers game. Matt Ryan converted the 4th and 3. Pass might have been deflected, but it was caught by Michael Pittman Jr. And right now you've got 3rd and 3 on the Pittsburgh 26 for Indianapolis as they try to get potentially a game-tying score. It's going to be a 4th down coming up again for Matt Ryan and company, a 4th and 4. They've already converted once on 4th down on this drive, and they're going to have to do it again. And Jeff Saturday, the interim head coach of the Colts, calls a timeout. So we'll let you know what's going on there as soon as it pops up on our screen. And wow. I mean, you're literally playing for your season right now. I mean, it's every game right now from here on in for Indianapolis is basically a playoff game because you can't afford a loss. At 4-6-1, whatever they are. I mean, they have to have this game. Is that Matt Ryan that scrambled 14 yards? He is not a scrambling quarterback at this stage of his career. Wow. So how about this? The Dallas Cowboys and New York Giants game on Thanksgiving Day did a record 42 million viewers for that game. That is a Thanksgiving Day record. 42 million viewers. I mean, forget the power of the NFL for a moment. Let's just talk about the power of the Dallas Cowboys. Combined with a division rival, battling for, the second best record in the NFC East. You had the Cowboys win a close game in New York against the Giants early in the season. That was with Cooper Rush at quarterback. You had the Giants up at the half in Dallas, and then Dallas found another gear, and the Giants didn't. And the Cowboys are solidifying their spot in the NFC. I don't care if they win the division. I got news for you. Their game travels. What Dallas does, running the football, defense, getting on top of the quarterback, that travels. That can play anywhere, in any weather. Yeah, they can throw it if they have to, and I'm sure fans probably might wish they, in this day and age where everybody loves to watch people throwing the football around and high-scoring offenses and all that, I'm sure fans in Dallas would like to see them throw it a bit more. They don't need to. They have figured out their formula. They have figured out their identity. They know who they are, and they're very comfortable with it. I got to be honest. I don't know that they need Odell Beckham Jr. I know a lot of Cowboy fans would probably hope that he'd come in and be that final piece to the puzzle. They might have all the pieces to the puzzle. This is not a year in the NFL where there is one dominating, prohibitive favorite. I have said this over and over, and I need people to understand. There is not one team that is going to be a prohibitive favorite come the postseason. I know Kansas City is the closest thing we have to that, but even they have shown they have warts. Remember, they lost to this very same Indianapolis team early in the season. But you had Dallas running it for almost 170 yards on Thanksgiving Day. And Saquon Barkley, who's been so good for the Giants this year, 39 yards rushing. And Dallas solidified itself as the other team alongside San Francisco. When I look at this conference and I say, who do I think is going to the Super Bowl? Right now it's Dallas or it's San Francisco. And I know people will say, don't sleep on Philadelphia. How can you when they only have one loss this season? I'm not there on them. I'm sorry. I do not hold them in the same regard. When you give up 33 to Aaron Rodgers with 9 digits, 4 of them only working on his throwing hand, you're giving up touchdowns to Jordan Love late. I think Dallas beats Philadelphia the next time they play if both teams are sort of where they are right now in terms of health and all of that. I think Dallas beats them. And I don't know that they need Odell Beckham Jr. to come in and upset the chemistry of this team. You have this story about him on an airplane over the weekend. Who knows what happened? And I'm not saying that's the lone reason. But if he comes in here, now all of a sudden you've got to shift some of those targets away from CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup. How does that upset the chemistry of this team? And you can say all you want that, well, look what he meant to the Rams coming in there last year, helping to lead them to a Super Bowl. Everything lined up right for the Rams to win that Super Bowl. And Odell Beckham Jr. was undoubtedly a part of that. And he played the good soldier after being dealt away by Cleveland during the season. Remember, he talked his way out of there. Do you need that in Dallas right now? I'm sure Jerry Jones is trying to convince him to come. But if I'm the Cowboys, if I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm hoping he doesn't come. This thing, this cake has already been baked. It's like having an amazing meal and somebody saying, you know what, let's just try to add this. Sometimes you can over-season. Sometimes you can put too much salt. You can never put too little. But you can put too much. And once you put too much on, once you put too much seasoning on, well, then you've got a ruined meal. It doesn't matter how good the steak is. Those mashed potatoes, the sauteed mushrooms on top. You put too much seasoning, it's ruined. There's nothing you can do. And the Dallas Cowboys with Odell Beckham Jr., to me, are over-seasoned. And he might work in other places. I don't know that he works in this situation with Dallas. I really don't. What do you think? What team would benefit the most from his presence? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 from anywhere in America. You could also tweet at the show. Let me know what you think there. At the back page. Again, on Twitter, hit me up there. At the back page. To me, it's not Dallas. And I don't know that it's Buffalo. I think, and look, people are going to say, you just want him to go to the Giants. I think the Giants are who need him the most desperately. I think the Giants is where he makes the biggest impact. I still don't necessarily believe he makes them a Super Bowl contender, but I think he makes the biggest impact. When you talk about what that team has at quarterback in Daniel Jones, I think he enhances Daniel Jones. I don't think the Cowboys need somebody to enhance Dak Prescott. I just think they need Dak Prescott to play within himself. And that would be enough. Nobody's running away with this thing. I keep saying it. There ain't going to be no blowouts in the Super Bowl. There's not going to be, all these postseason games are going to be nail-biters that drive you nuts. But you don't need to. If you are the Dallas Cowboys, you don't need to upset what you have going on right now by bringing in. And this team showed its mental toughness, by the way. Losing the way they did in Green Bay and then bouncing back with the 2 wins they've had since then tells me all I need to know about the mental toughness of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott going down week 1 and Cooper Rush having to step in and leading this team the way it did, and other guys stepping up, and Micah Parsons on the defensive side, all of these guys stepping up on the defensive end, Tony Pollard establishing himself as one of the better running backs in the game alongside Ezekiel Elliott, who's now starting to play better as well. That showed me all I needed to know. And it's funny. It's really funny. I'm not I'm not pro or anti Mike McCarthy. So I don't have a horse in this race. But everybody wrote the obituary on this guy. Everybody buried Mike McCarthy. Oh, he was done. Get Sean Payton ready. Look, even after the Cowboys lost Dak Prescott early on, I questioned what it meant ultimately for Mike McCarthy. But now all of a sudden, look around. Dallas Cowboys are 8-3. They're a legit Super Bowl contender right now with a head coach who's won one, who knows how to win a Super Bowl. Why would you want to do anything to upset that if you're the Cowboys as an organization? You don't need to overseason the steak. It tastes good. Give my compliments to the chef. The steak is good. No. I don't need any more steak. I don't need any sauce. I don't need any of that sauce they put in the little ramekin on the side for you to dip it. I don't need any of that. Just as is good enough right now for the Cowboys. Don't screw it up. And if you add Odell Beckham Jr., I'm afraid you're doing just that. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. No guests in this hour, so the phone lines are open for you. You could also tweet at me at the back page. I'm Jason Page. A win for the Pittsburgh Steelers in Indianapolis. They beat the Colts 24-17. More to do on the cash-in. We'll have post-game reaction coming up as well from Indianapolis. We'll hear from both head coaches. The interim head coach, Jeff Saturday, the head coach of the Steelers, Mike Tomlin. Don't go anywhere. A lot more to do on the cash-in on SportsMap Radio. Do 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 do. One 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Feel free to tweet at the show as well at the back page from anywhere in America. If not the Cowboys and the 49ers, I want to know who else people are going to. I don't know where you go in the NFC unless you're big on Philadelphia, which I'm not. When I look at the rest of that conference right now, it's San Francisco and Dallas to me. I don't know how the seedings will match up and line up and all that stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing a Dallas-San Francisco NFC title game. Just like the old days. But I do not, I'm telling you right now, Odell Beckham Jr., not if I'm running the Dallas Cowboys. Nope. Not doing it. And it has nothing to do with what happened on this airline flight he was on over the weekend. It's nothing to do with that at all. I'm just talking about it from a chemistry standpoint, in terms of where this team is, that group of guys in the locker room. I don't see it. If this team stays healthy as is right now, they're a Super Bowl contender. Nobody's a prohibitive favorite. Again, I know Philadelphia and Kansas City are the two teams a lot of people will point to as prohibitive favorites. There might even be a lot of people right now that have that as their Super Bowl pick. Not me. Nope. I think Kansas City probably winds up there. I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas City was in the Super Bowl. But if you tell me, do I think Miami can beat them in a one-off? If you tell me, do I think Buffalo can beat them in a one-off? Yeah, I do. And look, as we've seen with, San Francisco, there's been times where out of nowhere that defense has struggled. But by and large, that San Francisco defense is Super Bowl caliber. I mean, they shut out. You don't see NFL teams get shut out. You could score points by accident in the NFL. Team turns the ball over. You get a chip shot field goal. Whatever. They couldn't get anything yesterday. And the decision by that organization to go with Andy Dalton this week clearly wasn't the right one. Not that it matters. The Saints season is done. And maybe they want it to be done. Maybe they want to go as bad as they can. But I don't know why, because they don't have a draft pick anyway. Speaking of teams, if I can for a moment. Speaking of teams that really have no direction right now and are a complete mess. Let me see if I had that right, by the way. NFL Draft Order 2023. I want to make sure I didn't misstate something there just now on the Saints. I know Denver doesn't have a meaningful draft pick, but the NFL Draft Order right now, New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans doesn't even have a pick. New Orleans doesn't even have a pick in the first round. Philadelphia gets that New Orleans pick. So if you're a Philadelphia fan, you want the Saints to be absolutely sucktastic over the remainder of this season. By the way, as it relates to the NFL draft order right now for 2023, Houston at number 1, 1-9-1. Chicago is now the number 2 pick at 3-9. The Rams gave their pick to Detroit, so the Lions have the 3rd overall pick as of now. Seattle has the 4th pick courtesy of Denver. Might have been the greatest fleecing of all time. I'll talk about that in a second. And Carolina's number 5. And talk about the greatest fleecing of all time. You look at what's going on right now in Denver. That team losing in Carolina yesterday. Season on the brink, basically. And that's where you are right now when you talk about Denver. I mean, it's not even just a season on the brink. I mean, the season's lost. It's a question of whether or not now Nathaniel Hackett can survive what is taking place with this organization. Whether or not there's any way Nathaniel Hackett makes it out unscathed when all is said and done. And the reason is simple why he won't. Why Nathaniel Hackett gets fired is really easy. I don't know if it's fair or unfair, but the reason Nathaniel Hackett's going to get fired is Russell Wilson. Because you can't fire Russell Wilson, who's making $250 million. Let me say that again. $250 million with a B dollars. That's the reason that Nathaniel Hackett's going to get fired. You know how much money Nathaniel Hackett's making? Yeah, they're not going to want to pay him to sit on the sideline, but it's sure a hell of a lot better than paying Russell Wilson to sit on the sideline for $250 million. And that's guaranteed cash. There ain't nothing you can do. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And again, you can tweet at us at the back page. Again, hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Russell Wilson yesterday, did you see the numbers? And the numbers don't even just speak to how bad he's been. 19 of 35 yesterday for Russell Wilson. He was sacked 3 times. A QBR of 29. He was outplayed by Sam Darnold, who's not making $250 million. I mean, it's over. I don't know. I mean, if there has been a more precipitous quick drop, and look, when it goes, it can go quickly like this. And in the case of Russell Wilson, it looks like it's just gone quickly. I mean, it's done. You could say it's the shoulder, all these different things. Maybe the guy's just not that good anymore. And maybe Seattle as an organization had it right when they saw what he was the second half of last year. Maybe they figured it out as an organization. This is who he is. And I'm not saying the way that it happened was the right way. I'm not saying that they couldn't have figured out a more graceful exit for Russell Wilson than this one. But if we want to talk about anything, it's their evaluation of where his skills were at this stage of his career. And boy, they found a willing buyer in Denver who gave up the moon and stars. And now in Seattle, you've got a winning team. Granted, maybe not a Super Bowl winner, but certainly a team that's competitive for a playoff spot after parting ways with their franchise quarterback, which is rare. And you've got tons of draft picks to stockpile and rebuild your organization. And who knows, depending on how bad Denver winds up being the rest of the way, you might wind up being able to go and draft your future quarterback and still have Geno Wilson play for another year or two, but be able to groom your next quarterback behind him. Something I don't think Geno Smith is going to mind doing, considering the opportunity he's gotten from this organization to renew his career and show that he can play at a high level. I could be wrong about that, but it's what I think. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You could tweet at us at the back page. Programming note, by the way. Wednesday, Kenny Mayne on the show. Former SportsCenter anchor, now hosting a podcast. Like everybody on the planet, we have a podcast, the Cash In Podcast. But Kenny Mayne will join us for 2 segments in the first hour on Wednesday's show. Looking forward to that. Stick around. More to do on the Cash In post-game reaction from Monday Night Football. Stay with us. It's SportsMap Radio. Oh, really? Sam Houston's going to lose? Somebody just texted me that they tried to call in and it rang for a second and a half and then hung up. Getting set to put the wraps on hour number 2. We'll hear from Jeff Saturday. Also, Mike Tomlin in the next hour. Post-game reaction to the Monday Night Football win for Pittsburgh. Yeah, and I hate to, well, for lack of a better word, take a dump on the Raiders, especially after they got 2 wins, the way they did, 2 overtime wins the last couple of weeks. But some teams don't even know how to tank properly or stink properly. Because here's the problem for the Raiders. You're at a crossroads when it comes to Derek Carr as the franchise quarterback for this organization. You're at a crossroads right now. You've got to decide, is this the guy to lead us for the next 5 years? Give him one more big deal. Or do we want to go and draft somebody? At 2-7, the Raiders were in a much better position to potentially get one of those top draft picks where these 3 great young quarterbacks coming out. Now they're drafting 9th, and they might not get any of them. That's the price of winning football games when you still don't have really any chance to make the playoffs, and that's what the Raiders have done with their 2 wins. Another hour of the show is next.
Man, I'm just appreciative of having an opportunity to compete on Monday Night Football, man. All of us grew up on it, and it's just a part of the fabric of our society, man, and it's an honor to participate in it and win. I'm appreciative of the efforts of the guys who grew up on it.
of a Monday/Tuesday edition of the show. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app. Good to have you with us. 1-800-224-2004 in the final hour. 800-224-2004. You can tweet at me at the back page. Twitter might be easier tonight because I'm understanding we're having some issues with our call-in line tonight. So hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Again, on Twitter at the back page. I'm getting close to adding a text line for the show, too. People love texting. So I think I may just add a text line to the show where people could just text in. How do I communicate? 90% of my communique are by text message. I don't like talking on the phone. And I'm not saying this to listeners, but in general, in my private life, I don't like talking on the phone. I just prefer to text. Austin, are you one of those guys? Our producer engineer on the show tonight, Austin Rodriguez. Are you a texter or a caller? Yeah, see? I'm more of a texter too. You just get to a point where you just don't feel like talking to people on the phone. Who wants to talk on the phone? I just prefer to text. It's what I do. By the way, I see Jeff Saturday was at the podium. We'll try to bring you sound of that. We'll hear from Mike Tomlin coming up in a few minutes here on the show. We got that coming up for you after Pittsburgh wins tonight. And again, we talk about, draft position. Right now, Pittsburgh is 12th, which means they better figure out, they better kind of understand Kenny Pickett is their quarterback because they don't got anybody else to throw out there right now. It's Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett. So he's going to have to take his lumps. In some weeks, he's going to look really good, and in other weeks, he's going to frustrate you, but Kenny Pickett is the starting quarterback for this franchise. And he did just enough tonight. Showed some signs. Continues to show signs of being a guy that can make some throws in this league. I don't know if anybody knows if he's the next coming of Big Ben, but if you're a Steelers fan, you felt good about him tonight. We're back with more of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Monday Night Football saw the Steelers hold off the Colts in Indianapolis 24-17 to improve to 4-7 on the year. Kenny Pickett, 20 of 28 for 174 yards in the victory. Steelers were up 16-3 at the half. Colts storm back in the second half, take a 17-16 lead, but then the Steelers with a touchdown with about 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and that would be the difference. 24-17. Colts had an opportunity late, couldn't convert on a fourth down around the Steelers' 30-yard line. So to the victor goes the spoilers. Let's hear from the Steelers first. Their head coach is Mike Tomlin.
Man, I'm just appreciative of having an opportunity to compete on Monday Night Football, man. All of us grew up on it, and it's just a part of the fabric of our society, man, and it's an honor to participate in it and win. I'm appreciative of the efforts of the guys. We got a lot to work on, but we were good enough tonight to secure victory, and for that, we're thankful, man. We got a short week, got another road trip waiting on us, and so we got to sleep fast and do those things. And from a health standpoint, Naj was out with an abdominal injury. He's being evaluated, so I don't know the extent of that. I'm sure we'll visit again tomorrow, and I'll have more information for you there. I thought our kickoff unit's got to be better. I thought that was a catalyst for whatever got started with them in the second half. The field position component of it was a big negative. We got to get better there. The field positioning was a negative in that aspect of the game, but that's what jumped out at me. There was a lot of good. There's a lot of things to grow from. We'll assess it and move. Questions?
Mike, what was the impetus to the division of labor in the secondary, particularly getting Pierre and Casey as many snaps as they got?
We use everybody in the secondary that's in the helmet. We've kind of been in that mentality all year. The rotation or how we utilize them might change from game to game based on matchup components and things of that nature, but it's been pretty consistent that DBs in the helmet we utilize. We utilize them all.
What did Snell and McFarland give you there as they alternated in their role?
I'm sorry?
Snell and McFarland, what did you like about what they gave you?
I'm just appreciative of both guys' efforts, man. Sometimes you get battlefield promoted. A guy like Benny Snell became a central part of what we were doing offensively, and he was still on punt team. He was still on punt return. He was still on kickoff. Ant Mac's the guy that's always waiting and working and waiting for his opportunity, and he did some things that we saw in team development in the preseason that make him a little bit different than some of the other backs, the things he's able to do in space, the screen game, the draw game. I just thought he was an asset to us.
What do you see from Kenny in terms of week-to-week progress, in particular his ability to overcome adversity, shake it off?
Guys, you guys ask me that every week. He's getting better every week, and it's in a very natural way because of experience. He's a competitor. He's smart, but it's still a lot of meat on the bone, and it's just the process. But like I always say, he's good enough, and we're good enough to win while that happens. And so we're not grading him or us on a curve. We acknowledge that he's very much in development. You can ask me next week, and I'll tell you he got better in all areas again next week because with each snap becomes exposure, and sharp guys that are competitors, they grow from those things.
He had 3 really good passes near the end of that game-winning drive. What did you like from that point where he's able to lead you down the field and finish at that point with some of those throws he made?
We have him in there because we think he's capable of that, and so he proved it. And I'm sure he's going to get a lot of other opportunities moving forward to prove that. We need people that run toward action, not away from it, and he runs toward it.
How impressive was Alex Highsmith when you guys needed him most?
Alex is legit. I think everybody knows that. But at the same time, man, it's good to have 090 on the opposite side of you. I think that helps.
Anyone else?
Mike, you had a big lead and then you lost it. Did anything change, or were you able to absorb that?
Kickoff coverage.
Your team came back and retook the lead. Anything facilitate that? Or
Just the natural ebb and flow of football. They got a momentum with that kickoff. Was able to put that ball in the end zone, and so you got to turn that tide. That's professional football. That's just part of it, and it doesn't happen in an instant.
Hey Mike, when Levi went down there under 3 minutes to go, and the way him coming off the field Did that medical request come down from up top?
I don't know where it came from, but obviously wherever it came from, we respect it.
All right.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
so there you go. The head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, after a 24-17 victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll be interested to see what Jeff Saturday has to say after the latest loss for this team. They're now 1-2 under him as the head coach, as the interim head coach. And I don't know what any of it means ultimately as far as whether or not he winds up being the next full-time head coach of this team. You know, what Jim Irsay is looking for. What is the definition of success if you're this Colts organization? I would assume that anything less than making the playoffs, based on where they were when he took over, they were still in the mix. I mean, what is the definition of success? It just feels like a lost year in Indianapolis for this team. Like what's been gained? Sam Ehlinger started a couple of games. You put him back on the bench. What's been gained for this organization is it finding out whether or not Jeff Saturday is capable of being a head coach in this league? When this is all done, does he just go back to ESPN and go back to being a commentator? I don't know. All right, here's Kenny Pickett, Steelers quarterback. Take a listen.
Anyone?
Jimmy, Mason Cole said you called that play at the end there, maybe small touchdown. Is that something that you just have maturation now, or would you have done that in week 2, week 3, week 5?
Yeah, Coach T, puts a lot of confidence, in myself. Just, asks me what I like, what I don't like. I feel like that play, just watching from tape, all week. Simple play, but something I feel like other teams weren't doing that I think if we gave it a shot, I think we could have been successful. We were in 4-down territory, so we were going to go for it again on the next play if we didn't get it. But I felt real confident with that play and, real happy we got in the end zone.
You say to Matt, I want to write this, or where this, you go to Mike, what's the process?
We have a great, open communication. I'll go up to Coach Soley and Coach Tomlin, and, we had a conversation, and that was the play I brought up. I felt really confident about it. They felt good about it too, so we rolled with it.
What's the conversation that you guys are having amongst yourself on the offense between the third and the fourth quarter when you're coming out, you got a third down, third quarter didn't go the way you wanted it to? Just what are you guys talking about on the sideline?
Yeah, just get that first down, and we feel like we moved the ball really well. So, we had those, I think it was the 2 3-and-outs, slow start, just based off of execution alone. Nothing schematically, nothing X's and O's wise, just flat out us executing. I got to make throws, we got to make plays, and we would have been on the move just like we were in that first half. So that's something that we definitely need to clean up. But really happy with the guys, how we responded, how we were on third down in that fourth quarter. I think really helped us, come away with the win.
Do for you personally to have not only your first road win, but your first fourth quarter comeback? You guys were, I think, 0-6 when you trailed going into the fourth quarter before tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive to take from it. It's really hard to win in this league, and right now we're a 4-win team. Right now we have to own that, and we got to chip away at it and get back to winning. And this definitely was the start. So there's things we got to build from off this game and take a lot of positives from it. And then obviously, there's things that we'll check the tape, and we got a quick turnaround here to get back on Sunday and go down to Atlanta. So there's things that we got to clean up and get right in order to take care of business on Sunday.
What was the window to Pickett's on the 2-point?
The window, when the defender's back to you, you can kind of, place the ball where you want, and it's George that has to make the play. I was happy he kind of jabbed inside, went out. So low and away is usually the safe bet to give him the best chance to make a play. And he went down and made a hell of a play. And I was talking to him all game, just keeping his head in. He's an unbelievable player, and there's going to be ups and downs in this thing. But if we stick with it, I think we'll be all right at the end of the day.
What does it say about your chemistry and your relationship with George that you guys were able to execute that scramble drill on the 2-point conversion?
Yeah, it's it takes time. It takes repetitions, and Coach Tomlin does a great job of putting us in those situations, and 7-shot plays, and we're all training camp, all spring, and Even during the season, we have that period once a week. So it's great to have those opportunities to see them play out in game situations. And no one blinks when we get down there. We're real confident in all the stuff that we have because we've repped it so many times. And working that scramble drill, just being able to extend, and George doing a great job of coming back to the football and making a play was huge for us.
Kenny, when Mike was out here just a few minutes ago, he said he feels like the team is good enough and you're good enough to continue winning while you develop. 2 wins in the last 3 weeks, played the Bengals tough. What's going on the last month that you guys feel you can build upon?
I think it's just chemistry playing together, and we're all believing in what we're doing, and we're showing up every day to work, and every guy in that locker room wants to win, and we're doing everything it takes to go out there and win, and we're leaving it out there. I think that's if you have that, you got a shot. So that's a good starting point. And there's a lot of things to clean up, but if we continue to build on the positives and clean up the negatives, I think we'll continue to trend in this direction.
All right, so there you go. Thoughts with Kenny Pickett post game after the Steelers wrap up a 24-17 win in Indianapolis to improve to 4-7 on the year. Did you watch the game? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can always tweet at the show as well at the back page. Send us your thoughts again on Twitter at the back page. There was a big move in baseball announced today. The rich getting richer. I mean, and look, you can say what you want about the Houston Astros. They don't rest on their laurels. They just won a World Series, and they might even be better next year. I'll explain why as we continue on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio.
If he was going to get the first down, and then we got there, I expect us to get on the ball and have another play from going down, right? If he was going to get the first down, and then we got there, I expect us to get on the ball and have another play a little bit quicker than that. But again, this wasn't a press for time. We just from going.
All right, continuing with post-game coverage of the Monday Night Football game. Colts fall at home to the Steelers 24-17. We'll get to Jeff Saturday in a second because there's some people sort of second-guessing the way he handled his timeout situation late in the game. And I saw a couple of timeouts that he had called on fourth down plays. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, did it make a difference in this team winning or losing? I don't know. But obviously, you know, this Colts team is up against it with Matt Ryan as their starting quarterback. Before we get to that, first of all, Kurt Heelan will come up and join us in 12 minutes in our 2-for-1 tonight. A conversation with him getting into where we are basically at the quarter pole of this NBA season. One team is starting to sort of solidify and gel and come together and showing why they are one of the best teams in the league. And another team that I frankly didn't think was the best team in the league right now is the best team in the league. We'll get into all of it with Kurt Heelan coming up. He joins us 12 minutes from now on the show. But you've got to credit the Houston Astros, who just won a World Series. It'd be easy to sit on your laurels. Think, we're good enough. With or without Justin Verlander, you know they've got a ton of starting pitching. But they go out and today sign Jose Abreu to a 3-year deal to play first base for them. I mean, and they basically, you know, they won last year. And as much as Astros fans might love and appreciate Yuli Gurriel for some of the things he's done for this organization, Jose Abreu is an upgrade at that position. So they just got better. And there's still a chance, according to some published reports, that Yuli Gurriel still may come back. Crazy. 3-year deal for Abreu. I don't see the financial particulars, but 3 years for Abreu. Astros' projected payroll right now is currently in the $175 million range. They've exceeded $187 million each of the previous 5 years. Justin Verlander, that's the next one to watch. Can they bring him back? And there's talk he's going to want $40 million a year. For a 39-year-old starting pitcher. A guy who's going to be 40 next year. You're going to pay him $40 million a year? Good luck. Good luck. I know how great he is. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to sell me on it. But, man, it's a lot of money to put into a 40-year-old starting pitcher a couple of years removed from Tommy John surgery. All right, Jeff Saturday is the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, the interim head coach. He talked about the timeout situation late in the game in his presser.
Down, right? Like if he was going to get the first down, and then we got there, I expect us to get on the ball and have another play a little bit quicker than that. But again, this wasn't a press for time. We just didn't make enough plays. Yeah, I mean, listen, when we walked in, I just said, hey, you're going to learn a lot about who you are right now, right? And Z got up and gave the breakdown and just challenged everybody. And those guys, they stepped up and met the challenge. It was, obviously, it wasn't nearly good enough the first half. And I think everybody felt it just not nearly enough plays and really self-inflicted wounds, which has kind of been the story the last 2 weeks against opponents that, you feel like you have an opportunity and don't make enough to close it out. Yeah, I didn't know that about college, but no, I mean, today it wasn't a hit. It was a mesh. He and the QB and getting the mesh, and so one of those that I don't know that I've seen it. If I haven't seen it very often. Obviously, that's tough to stomach inside the 1 yard line. Yeah, I mean, listen, I felt like I thought the defense started good. Obviously they gave up, you gave up the field goal, but then we give them a short. We turn it over inside our own and they hold. So I thought they fought. The effort was good there. For us, there were plays to be made. We just didn't make them. And we thought we could attack them down the field. They were pressing us up pretty good early in the game, and we were trying to get some plays off and just. Communication wasn't great. Execution wasn't great. Again, you can point fingers, and it's like everybody takes a turn at different moments. And so, collectively, we just didn't do enough. And you saw we come out in the second half, and it looks like two totally different offenses. One that's in rhythm, moving, no new plays. We talk about all the time, no new plays, no new players. It boils down to executing. And we just did a much better job in the second half than we did the first. I don't. I think the first one, the kid made a good play. He fell off in the coverage he was in. I think it was Pitt who was trying to sit down, and he fell off another receiver to make the play. So it was a heck of a play for the kid to make, and just had good eyes on the play. And the second one, like I said, just untimely, and you hate to see it again. How often does that happen? It may never happen in his career again. Just unfortunately, it happened tonight.
Get to Colt.
So there you go. Jeff Saturday meeting with the media just a short time ago. Actually, I want to hear this last thing that he says here. Hold on.
Right. No, Matt's doing. Matt's going to continue to be the guy. We're going to, like I said, we're going to keep moving forward, keep pressing forward with what we got, and I tell the guys in the locker room, man, we got the players in the locker room to do it. We got the plays to do it. We got to figure out how to execute and in moments that matter, and so that's really what we got to focus in on and hone in on.
So you got Jeff Saturday up there, who's potentially the future head coach of this team. He's the interim head coach right now, since Jim Irsay let go of Frank Reich. And he's going to sit up there and tell you that Matt Ryan is the quarterback for this team for the rest of the year, and I have no idea why. I mean, the team's 4-7-1. They'd have to win out to even have a chance to sniff the postseason, which is probably not going to happen anyway when you look at the rest of the standings in the AFC. And it immediately gives me pause as to whether or not this is the right guy to lead this organization, at least on the sidelines. There's no way you could watch these games and think that Matt Ryan is the answer. Now, I'm not saying it's Nick Foles, and I'm not saying it's Sam Ehlinger, but you at least owe it to your fan base to give yourself a chance to win every week. And if you can't win every week and you are 4-7-1, then to find out whether or not Sam Ehlinger is the answer at the quarterback position. This makes no sense to me. And I get it. These guys are watching practice and they're seeing what's going on. This team scored 190 points through 12 games. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. Short of Denver, which has been a train wreck this year. Nobody's been worse in the league. Well, except maybe the Rams. But nobody's been worse in the league. No, and actually the Rams aren't worse because the Rams have played one less game. I mean, Indianapolis has been as bad as it gets. So I don't understand what Jeff Saturday is seeing that he still thinks Matt Ryan is the answer for the duration. We'll talk some NBA coming up in a couple of minutes. Kurt Heelan will join us. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. We'll get some thoughts with him on the Warriors, the Celtics, a coach that may be on the hot seat, the Mavericks. Talk about it all. He's our 2 for 1, and he comes your way next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Stay with us. As we continue with this Monday edition of the show, this is your reminder to head over to playfortickets.com right now. That's It's the Super Pick 7 contest. It's free to play. It's free to sign up. It's free to try and win at playfortickets.com. As we continue with this Monday edition of the show, this is your reminder to head over to playfortickets.com right now. That's playfortickets.com. Play the Super Pick 7 contest. It's going on with your chance to go to the NFL's biggest game in February in Glendale, Arizona. You know the one. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. As we continue with this Monday edition of the show, this is your reminder to head over to playfortickets.com right now. That's playfortickets.com. Play the Super Pick 7 contest. It's going on with your chance to go to the NFL's biggest game in February in Glendale, Arizona. You know the one. It's the Super Pick 7 contest. It's free to play. It's free to sign up. It's free to try and win at playfortickets.com. Every Sunday of the NFL season, including the playoffs, gives you a chance to win, and it couldn't be easier. All you got to do is pick the correct side and totals on Sunday for 7 games. It's that simple. Use that football expertise each week, and you have a chance to win 2 tickets to the big game in Glendale, Arizona in February, and put $50,000 cash in your pocket. Just go to playfortickets.com, click the Super Pick 7 contest. You win $50,000 cash. 2 tickets to the big game, airfare and hotel. If you can pick the correct side and totals on Sunday for 7 games. 21 and over to play. Terms and conditions apply. Playfortickets.com. Go and check it out. I can see Kurt Heelan typing furiously into his computer right now to go make the picks for this weekend. Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is our guest in our 2-for-1 tonight. Kurt. How was your Thanksgiving, my friend?
It was good. It was good. Got to hang out with family, go with my brothers. By the way, if you want to win that contest, I'll just give you my picks, then do the opposite. And I think you stand like a decent chance.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, it can be done though. I mean, it can absolutely be done. I know the owners of the company. The insurance policy ain't cheap, which means it can be done. You just got to pick 7 games, correct side and total, and I mean. get a chance to go to the biggest game in the NFL, I mean, I'd certainly go and do it. All right. What were you going to say?
You should give it a shot.
Yeah, I would say so. I just spent the weekend in San Francisco. I spent 4 days up there. I left on Thursday. I went up there for 4 days. By the way, the demise of the city of San Francisco has been greatly exaggerated. Let me just say that. After spending 4 days there, people who are like, "Oh my God, it's like The Walking Dead. It's terrible. It's a disaster." You're nuts. The city is still amazing. Thank you to the city of San Francisco for giving us such a fun weekend on Thanksgiving weekend. But the Warriors, more importantly, you're starting to get the sense that they're figuring it out, aren't you?
Absolutely. I was just wrote about that this morning. They've won 8 of 11 now. And look, for a while, Steph Curry was just having to carry them, and he's still playing at an MVP level of basketball. But Klay Thompson has found his legs, and the other thing they finally did was just move away from the 2 timeline thing, where they really banked on the youngsters coming in, and it didn't work. Moses Moody's now out of the rotation. James Wiseman is in the G League, and Kuminga's still getting minutes, but they've gone away from that. They've leaned into their splitting time. They didn't really used to. Steve Kerr doesn't really like to split Draymond Green and Steph Curry so much because they play so amazingly well off of each other. But he's kind of excuse me. He's had to this year just because of their depth issues, and it's worked. Like he's just splitting their minutes, and suddenly the bench units aren't. Look, they had a fantastic starting 5, and everything that came apart with the bench. Started putting Draymond out with the bench and shifting things around, and they got DiVincenzo healthy, which helps. But the bench isn't a disaster anymore, and suddenly they're winning games, and they're starting to look like the Warriors again. And they're not all the way back. The defense isn't all the way there. Jordan Poole hasn't been consistent yet. But you can still, like you said, you can watch them now, and you're like, yeah, I can see where this goes. And they've got to feel good, by the way, in the West where nobody's run away with it. Like it's not like the East where you look up at the top and you're like, damn, Milwaukee and Boston are good, and that's the bar. It's not going to be easy to get there. Like, no, Phoenix is on top, and they're very good, but nobody's run away with the West and made you like, oh man, I don't know if we can get to those guys. Like, it's just not that way. So I think there's a lot of hope.
Talk to me about the Celtics, because at 17-4, I've got to take a little heat because at the beginning of the year when we were looking at the teams and going around, I said I didn't understand the Celtics being the favorite in Vegas to win the NBA championship with teams like Milwaukee, obviously the Warriors having done what they did. To me, I didn't think Boston had earned the preseason favorite in Vegas status or moniker that had been placed upon them. But you mentioned them there just a few minutes ago, in discussing the fact that the East has sort of had those 2 teams that have separated themselves at least through the first quarter of the NBA season. To you, when you analyze Boston from top to bottom, why is it that they've been so good?
Their offense has been absolutely phenomenal. They've been kind of going back and forth with Sacramento for best offense in the league, and I'm not sure who has it, as we speak right this second. But their offense has been phenomenal. They kept what worked from last year and built upon it, and that's a credit to Joe Mazzulla. Look, it's a little bit of like when Luke Walton coached the Warriors that 63-win season. They're dominating. The system had been put in place. Don't mess with it, right? Like just make it run a little more. Maybe find teams, but don't mess with what works. They came back with a chip on their shoulder. I didn't know how they were going to handle that entire situation with Ime Udoka and losing a popular coach and how they would respond. They've responded beautifully. They really haven't missed a stride. And you got to remember, they're 17-4. Their best defender hasn't played yet, and they're not going to get him back till probably after, certainly after the first of the year, and somewhere maybe closer to the All-Star break. They get Robert Williams back, and if he can come back and be Robert Williams and being a elite defender. Suddenly, this team is back to being again right in the mix for a title. They are scoring. They are efficient. They've got two elite wings. They've got versatility. They can just beat you a lot of different ways, and I think that's what shows up every night. It doesn't have to be Tatum.
Make the argument for Milwaukee then.
Have you met Giannis Antetokounmpo? Giannis Antetokounmpo is the obvious advantage there, but they've got great role players around them. Again, remember, they've done this without Chris Middleton. Their best half-court shot creator. With all due respect to Giannis, like that's the guy they lean to create at the end of games. They've got Drew Holiday, but they know who they are. They know what they are. They defend well. They have added versatility to their game that they didn't have a couple years ago before they won the title. I think they are right there as well. And it starts and ends with they have the best player on the planet playing for them. They are capable of winning every game, but their length, their defense. Again, they haven't had Pat Connaughton either. So, like, when they get that full roster back to go around Drew Holiday and everything else, their depth, their consistency is just going to make them a force of nature. And they in Boston will, if when that series happens, I'm kind of rooting for it. That's just going to be epic. That is going to be 7 games of just knockdown.
Are the Mavericks just spitting in the wind here, trying to get anything they can in terms of supporting Luka Doncic? I know they go and get Kemba Walker to kind of help out the backcourt. You look at teams that the loss of Jalen Brunson has really, you can see what he meant to that team.
Yeah, and they can kind of survive it during the regular season, right? Because you don't need that second shot creator as much as Luka Doncic is another guy playing. You know, if you're having an MVP conversation right now, he is in the 3 or 4, however you're defining it, maybe at the very top of that list. He's been phenomenal, but against the best teams, you start to see it. You start to see the hey, we can make Luka's life difficult, and who's going to pick it up? And Spencer Dinwiddie has tried. I think that's what Kemba Walker comes in for. They brought in Facu Campazzo out of Argentina, but he's just not that guy.
I like Christian Wood though.
I like Christian Wood. They haven't really leaned in. His defense hasn't been good, so you get this sense that
whose defense is good? Nobody's defense is good. It's the NBA.
Yeah, I think they need to lean into him more during the regular season. But he might be. If his defense is going to be this bad, it might be difficult to play him in the postseason. But let's get to the postseason and deal with that. I don't know how much. I don't know how much Kemba can help unless you've got some sort of DeLorean with a flux capacitor in it, and can go get Kemba Walker's knees from about 10 years ago. Then it's a different story. But still, they've got to find something there. You're right. You watch them, and they miss Brunson. And Doncic can make up for it for a while, but at some point. That's going to catch up with him, both in terms of in the playoffs. Oh my gosh, they'll get to him in the playoffs. At some point, he's going to wear down. You're asking this guy carry so much load every night. It's not fair, guys. Guys are going to wear down.
If I give you 3 names, I was reading an interesting article today. It made me think of this. I'm going to give you 3 names: Carmelo Anthony, DeMarcus Cousins, Isaiah Thomas. Which is the most likely to get a phone call from a team and get on a roster right now? Is it DeMarcus Cousins?
That's a really good question. I think here's the thing. I think it should be Cousins. Because I think he proved it last year in Denver, and I think Milwaukee for a stretch. But in Denver, I thought he played pretty well. It's just the concern that he's a disruption. And that's fair or not, whether he still is or not. That perception has kept him out. I got a feeling it might be Carmelo. Just somebody's at some point going to go, hey, let's go get a forward who can score buckets. And Carmelo can still get you buckets off the bench, and he's kind of accepted that role. I got a feeling. I don't think it's Isaiah. Isaiah's with Isaiah's problems. As he looked after all the injuries, he just kind of lost half a step, undersized, and it's just an issue. A defensive. So fair enough. I think he could help some teams too. But I got a feeling it's Carmelo, but I think it should be DeMarcus. Like, I know there's been rumors about him in Taiwan. Some teams, DeMarcus could help. He really could. And I think there's just this concern that he'd be more trouble than it's worth. And I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I don't. If you're thinking about signing him, you've got to have a conversation with the people in Denver and see if that was the case last year. I didn't get the impression that was. I didn't hear that. But you've got to go find out.
Is there any scenario? I only got 60 seconds here for you to answer this one. But is there any scenario where Tom Thibodeau winds up losing his job this season with the Knicks, or is he going to make it through the year?
Probably makes it through the year, but no, there's absolutely no scenario. This has been a disappointing season for them. The problem is, just in a nutshell, if you're Leon Rose, that's your card to play. That was your guy. You brought him in. If you let him go, the spotlight turns to you. It doesn't matter who you bring in as a coach. Spotlight's on you. Rose wants to avoid that for as long as possible.
Great job as always. Kurt Heelan does a terrific work. Check him out over at NBCSports.com. It's pro basketball talk. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
We'll look forward to it. Take care, man.
So there you go. Kurt Heelan giving us some time on the show tonight in our 2-for-1. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show if you feel so inclined. At the back page. Again, hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Some odds and ends to wrap up the show with next on the Cash In at SportsMap Radio. All right, getting set to say goodbye for tonight. Programming note, Kenny Mayne on the show Wednesday. He'll join us for the last 30 minutes of our first hour of the show. If you miss anything from the show, go and check it out on the Cash In podcast. Yep. Get it every night after the show. So make sure to go and check that out. All right, odds and ends to finish the show. Tigers first baseman Miguel Cabrera confirming plans. Well, he's designated hitter at this stage of his career. But Miguel Cabrera going to retire after the 2023 season. Still hopes to stay in baseball after he's done. It has been one hell of a career for that guy. And, you know, by retiring in 2023, there's a good chance he winds up going into the Hall of Fame by himself 5 years later. Because, you know, you look at who else is kind of leaving the game at that time. It's kind of how it works itself out. By not retiring this year, he's not going to have to go in with, you know, a Yadier Molina, who's probably a first ballot Hall of Famer. And Albert Pujols will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll go the following year. Bad news from the world of golf. Tiger Woods out of his own tournament, the Hero Challenge. Plantar fasciitis is the reason being given. He says he still plans to play in the match, that 2-on-2 made-for-TV event on TNT. He also says he still plans to play the following week, the PNC Championship with his son, Charlie Woods. So, Tiger not going to play, unfortunately, at the Hero Challenge. So, everybody was looking forward to seeing Tiger Woods 3 weeks in a row. Now you're going to get to see him maybe 2 weeks in a row. Still remains to be seen what kind of presence he's going to have on the tour in 2023. Just playing the majors, maybe. I'll have to wait and see. It's going to do it for us. Thank you to producer-engineer Austin Rodriguez. Thank you to Kurt Heelan. We're back with you tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio on the SportsMap Radio app. I'm Jason Page. Bye! Hey, for the podcast, let's do the first segment where I talked about Lamar Jackson. Let's do the second segment where I talked about, God, what was I talking about? I forgot. But the first segment, the chunk of the second segment, and the interviews. And that should be it. All right, so you're not on tomorrow and Wednesday, right? All right, we'll see. All right, no worries. I just wanted to check and say, have a great week. Thank you for your help. Have a good night. Bye-bye. For those of you watching on the video stream, thanks for checking us out tonight. We're back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to go and try and catch up on some sleep. I'm exhausted after our trip to San Francisco over the last 4 days. I will see you all back here tomorrow night. Bye.